Hello, everybody.
Hi. Why are you here, by the way?
I just did a bunch of research for you.
Thank you so much. That's cool. Congrats.
I have a report hot off the freaking...
Comradeship.
Hot off the laser press.
Comradeship.
We got freaking lasers on our side.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to MOONCAST. I'm Luna, a Vietnamese communist born and living in Vietnam. This is my partner, EJ. My technical white dude.
American communist born in America and living in Vietnam.
And aka a tactical white dude.
The tactical white dude. The original.
The tactical white dude.
And we got a packed show for you today. I'm only going to be here for a minute because I just got some contextual information for Luna.
Look at this. This is all the preparation that we did before this MOONCAST. Show it all. This is that's in your hands too.
I want to talk real quick.
Yeah.
Material conditions, bro. Because you noticed that the last 3 months, whenever I've been in the USA, dealing with a bunch of personal problems, working as an electrician, and you've been traveling to your hometown and all over the place, and we did not have as much preparation. But now we're back in our studio. We have the material conditions. We have a laser printer. We have our offices. We're good. Now we can do all this awesome stuff for y'all. So we got a lot of
shit.
We got a lot of research
to stream for you, folks.
But we had one question right before the stream started. And I went and I found the damn answers by going through the original correspondence of Marx and Engels, and I've got that for you here. So anyway,
look at how important you are, folks. Like, who the
this is all for you.
Oh, for you. Look at this.
You think we'd be doing all this boring shit if it weren't for you? By the way, we need the compressor turned way up. We're overmodulating stuff. So you see the top? Nope. Follow it up. Nope. Follow. That's nope. I want nope. Put that back where it was. So take that third level, number 3, put it down. Right there. Okay, now go up. Take your finger and put it there and go up. No! Stinker. Don't touch anything. Just put your finger there. Don't touch anything and then move it up. Like up. No, don't touch anything. Go up. I want up the wheel, the lever.
Just kill me already. What the fuck are you talking about?
Put your finger there. Okay? You see the all the other controls? Go up. Don't touch it. Don't touch it. Go up. Up the other controls. There's a bunch of other controls. You're fixated on the up. Oh, keep going up. Keep going up. Up. All the way to the top. That's the compressor.
Too far. Are you kidding me? This one?
Yes. Turn it up.
Up or down?
Up. Right there. About 3/4 of the way. Okay. Hopefully that helped. I could not explain it any better than I did. What did I do wrong? I just said don't touch it and move your hand up, and you kept touching it. Failure to follow instructions. What's everyone? Okay, what's on these papers? Well, we've got a lot of stuff. We've got the correspondence between Marx and Engels, which I'm here to report on, and more correspondence between Marx and Engels, and then we've got an essay or an article that was written by this article is called "Imperialism and Capitalist Development in Marx's Capital" by Lucia Pradella. And then we've also got stuff by Ho Chi Minh, which Luna has digitally, I guess, right?
My book is
Nope, she's got a paper. We're doing it all old school today. I'll get your book.
Old school today.
I'll get your book after I finish my part, because people hate me and want me to leave, so I better get this done quick. Your music is still on, Luna. Did you have, music playing? You know you have... I'll tell you later.
Because you distracted me so much.
You literally asked me to go do this research for you. Okay, I'm just doing the
Hi,
job.
Brazilian comrades.
Hello, oi, our comrades from Brazil. I'm just reading the chat.
I like
you two clearly have some highlighted homework assignments. That's right, and we did it last minute. So, okay, I'm going to begin. This is the preface to the collected. Exactly. By the way, if you ever get a chance to start digging through the collected works of Marx and Engels, there's 60 volumes. I don't think I'll finish reading it in my lifetime, but there's the correspondence between Marx and Engels is really interesting, and there's a lot of stuff in there.
Yes.
That And that's one of the themes of today's thing is that, this article on colonialism, imperialism in Marx talks about how there's a lot of places where Marx and Engels talked about colonialism and imperialism.
Yeah, for example, in India and China and Ireland too.
Yeah, but it's a lot of that material is stuff that wasn't really kind of prominent or established in literature, and Lenin, for instance, wouldn't have known about it, and Rosa Luxemburg wouldn't have known about it.
Too.
But it's like Rosa Luxemburg and Lenin made a lot of the same conclusions that Marx made kind of independently.
Yes, exactly.
Which is interesting because...
And also Ho Chi Minh too.
Yeah.
Ho Chi Minh himself too.
Right. And I don't know that Ho Chi Minh...
These writing and these analysis of Marx was not revealed until the last 50 years.
Yeah, actually the Soviets in the 80s did a lot of this work, I found out.
Yeah.
So anyway, the late 70s and the 80s. Of putting all the correspondence together and organizing it and publishing it and releasing it. So it's just interesting because all these different people, Rosa Luxemburg, Lenin, Ho Chi Minh, arrived at the same conclusions based on the same
the framework.
Dialectical materialist framework. Yeah.
And that's what we called, as I told you, scientific
systematic perspective.
Mm-hmm.
So
now let's start with here's the thing. This is how my procedure. By the way, go get the book right here.
All right, I'll get the book.
Okay. So Ija introduced me to this awesome article written by Lucia Bradella, and I hope that Ija will later send the link to this article to you if you want to learn more. But literally, Lucia tried to go through and have a deep analysis, about colonial question, but in Marx and Engels' writing, that usually the thing that got buried in the history, and it is also all buried or misrepresented by a lot of Marxists in all over the world. Especially today, we're gonna also dunk on the, the Second International too, but that's gonna be a later part, because they were also responsible for burying this article. But so long story short, Marx did write a lot about colonial question in his books, in his articles. And Lenin, Rosa Luxemburg, and Ho Chi Minh, independently came up with kind of the same conclusion. It is very interesting to see those people, despite a lot of hardship, at that time, they came up using the same framework, the same systemic analysis kind of tool, and they came up with the same kind of conclusion. And it's so interesting to see that actually did happen in the past. And in this awesome article, there's a part where Marx and Engels talk about, the problem of the proletariat in the imperial core. And the examples that they took was, the disagreements between the Irish proletariat and the English proletariat, why they hate each other. And the second example was the Civil War, the American Civil War. He said that the Civil War could have been, a harbinger for socialism in the U.S., but it also showed a very important and severe problem in the proletariat in America at that time was racism.
Right.
Because, Marx at that time, had a really positive views about the Black Americans in this Civil War. But
if you want to learn a lot more about that, by the way, from a Black communist perspective, I highly recommend you check out Black Reconstruction by W.E.B. Du Bois. And yes, his name is pronounced Du Bois. Du Bois. That's how he pronounced his own name.
Du Bois, okay.
He said that it would rhyme with rejoice. So anyway, I'm just here to real quick give you a little background information on what Luna is going to read next. So this is from the preface of The Complete Works of Marx and Engels, Volume 40, because they wrote a lot. And the preface is giving just a little bit of background information. So I think we'll start here.
It's very interesting.
We'll start around the 1850s. Okay, so German workers and intellectuals were writing to Marx, seeking his advice on tactical matters. Thus, in the spring of 1856, he was approached from Germany by Johann Michel, a former member of the Communist League, which Marx and Engels were members of, at the end of February that year. Gustav Levy visited Marx with a message from the workers of Dusseldorf, and Marx explained the need for meticulous organization and propaganda, warning him of the danger of premature local uprisings in the midst of a general lull in the revolutionary movement.
Yes.
So he didn't think that Germany at that time was developed enough for actual uprisings. He said focus on
the material
organizing
was not ripe enough.
and propaganda, which is what, I mean, Luna and I don't tell people what to do, but to me it seems, at least, the USA right now, we need to be focused on organizing and propaganda. So kind of similar situation today, in my opinion. But anyway, and your mileage may vary wherever you are in the world. I'm just speaking as somebody who's from the USA. Okay. Okay, back to the text. Information on the state of the working class movement in the USA was supplied to Marx and Engels by Joseph Weidemeyer. This is shortly after, it's only about 10 years, it's 10 years after the Civil War, right? And so they're getting information about the working class movement in the USA from Joseph Weidemeyer. The organizers of the Communist Club in New York also kept in touch with Marx, and they were corresponding in 1858 and 1859. Marx and Engels pinned great hopes on the revolutionary wing of the English working class movement, as represented by the left Chartists, led by Ernest Jones. And Engels and Marx had been corresponding with the Chartists for a long time. Yeah. This is a very old working class movement, one of the early working class movements. And it was named after a charter that they had, basically demanding basically reforms.
This is the quote of Marx himself about how and why he changed his view on the situation in England with the Irish.
Luna will get to all that in just a moment. So Marx and Engels had a lot of hope for the revolutionary movement in England, led by the Chartists, led by a guy named Ernest Jones. Their activities opened up prospects for establishing a mass working class party in England. It was with this in mind that Marx advised Jones to transfer the center of agitation directly into the midst of the industrial proletariat of England. Jones should begin by forming a party, for which purpose he must go to the manufacturing districts, Marx wrote to Engels on 24 November 1857. However, these hopes were not justified. By then, the Chartist movement was steadily losing support among the masses. Jones's ideological vacillations, especially his tendency to follow the lead of the radical bourgeoisie, were a disturbing symptom. It's very important to understand. Jones was following the radical bourgeoisie, the reformist bourgeoisie.
Yes.
Marx repeatedly warned the Chartist leader, Jones, about his mistakes. At one point, Marx and Engels even temporarily broke with Jones. Jones's political vacillations reflected the rise of a reformist trend within the English working class movement. Marx and Engels saw it as the result of a privileged section forming in the English working class. This is so important.
Yeah.
On 7 October 1858, Engels wrote to Marx, "The English proletariat is actually becoming more and more bourgeois, so that the ultimate aim of this most bourgeois of all nations would appear to be the possession, alongside the bourgeoisie, of a bourgeois aristocracy and a bourgeois proletariat." And this tickles me because, like, what was it, this week or last week?
Yeah, this week.
Just a few days ago, before I read any of this stuff, I was talking about how in the USA it feels like we're forming. Go watch the last Spreadcast. I was talking about how it feels like we have kind of this bourgeois proletariat in the USA.
Yes.
And it's like the meme.
Scientific, I taught you dialectical materialism and all this shit, and you independently came up with the same thought.
It's like there's the meme that Marx predicted everything. The Good Morty says the Marx was inside of you all along.
All along.
Okay, Otoyo asks, is this the creation of the petite bourgeoisie? Very important. No. The petite bourgeoisie is like a totally different class, okay? So what Marx and Engels, I would say, Luna, you tell me if you disagree. I would say what Marx and Engels are talking about here are the actual proletariat, the working class.
Yes.
The workers who have their wages, the wage
the workers, but have, terrible little racist.
Well, they're receiving bourgeois characteristics from the bourgeois class.
Yes, and they tend to side with the bourgeoisie in their imperial court than the proletariat in the colonies.
And I would say that this is basically what Gramsci describes as like bourgeois civil society, right?
Yeah.
So in Marx and Engels' day, they were watching bourgeois civil society form, right, for the first time. And by the time Gramsci was writing in the early 20th century, it had formed and like cemented in Europe, right?
Yes.
So Marx and Engels right now in the 1850s are kind of watching bourgeois civil society form and watching the proletariat of England, which was like on the cutting, it was the most advanced capitalist state at the time.
Yeah.
Maybe balanced around with USA coming out of the Civil War. But basically they were watching the proletariat, the working class, receive these bourgeois characteristics. And that's what he means when he says bourgeois proletariat. He's not talking about the petite bourgeoisie, which is a totally different class, which has a different relation to the means of production. Let us know if that makes sense or doesn't. Okay. So in the case of a nation which exploits the entire world, like England and today the USA, this is of course justified to some extent. This development of a labor aristocracy, a new phenomenon detected by Engels and at the time characteristic only of England at the time. Because remember, England was like the first superpower.
Yeah.
They had an international empire, okay? Was made possible by England's industrial and colonial monopoly, which enabled the English bourgeoisie to use part of its super profits to buy off a section of the working class. And then this is fast forwarding to Lenin. In both respects, Lenin wrote, referring to England's vast colonies and monopoly profit in the context of this passage in Engels' letter, England at that time was an exception among capitalist countries, and Engels and Marx, analyzing this exception, quite clearly and definitely indicated its connection with the temporary victory of opportunism in the English labor movement. So the English labor movement was materially being advantaged by this empire and this exploitation, this imperialism, right? And they were, a lot of them being opportunists. And I guess Marx and Engels would have argued that Edgar Jones of the Chartists, was becoming an opportunist and following the radical bourgeoisie.
And then later that was Edward Bernstein.
I'm almost done. So, however, despite the decline of Chartism, Marx and Engels were convinced that the revolutionary trend in the English working class movement would in some form be reborn and carry on Chartism's finest traditions. They therefore considered it essential to help to awaken the revolutionary energy of the British working class in every possible way. The new development of the working class movement in the late 1850s, the spread of strikes, the emergence of new professional and other organizations, and the workers' participation in political campaigns stimulated Marx and Engels to step up their efforts to strengthen the nucleus of the future proletarian party. The situation demanded vigorous action, the intensified propagation of revolutionary theory, and closer contact with the masses. Marx in particular resumed his participation in the London German Workers' Educational Society, in which sectarian and adventurist elements had prevailed for a period. So that's another organization that they had kind of like been pushed out of by sectarianism. By this time, however, Marx's comrades had regained their influence in the society. So they took back control of the society to try to get their theory more aligned with the masses and vice versa. So that's basically the background and the context, okay? This is the actual letter that Marx wrote to Engels talking about Jones. So he says, our friend Jones, the leader of the Chartists, has decidedly sold himself, but at the lowest possible price, to the bright coterie. The idiot has ruined himself politically without rescuing himself commercially. So he's saying that he tried to sell himself out to the bourgeois radicals,
the lowest price,
but he didn't even make a lot of money doing it, which we've seen with a lot of people who call themselves socialists and then sell out to the bourgeoisie.
Yes.
They do it for a very low price. I'll cut out the articles relating to him and Reynolds and send them to you, but how little his apostasy, his betrayal, the laddie is preaching union of the middle and working classes, and availed him.
Someone sounds like AOC and
he sold their paper.
Bernie Sanders.
He sold the People's Paper to the Morning Star, has retained a mere couple of columns in the sheet for himself, and is moreover already at loggerheads with the new allies over the financial terms. Will be evident to you from the fact the day before yesterday he went to Frelgrath and handed him a letter in German in which he asked for £4, failing which he would be locked up. Blah, blah, blah. So anyway, he's complaining about this guy Jones and his selling out to the bourgeoisie. And then I guess, Luna, you can take it from there with the letter from Engels to Marx or your essay or your Ho Chi Minh Thought or whatever. I just wanted to give a little background in the context that Marx and Engels were writing about this stuff and why they started talking about Ireland and colonialism and all that other stuff.
Yeah. And by the way, can you send in the chat the link to this article so people can read themselves too?
Yes, I have to go find it. What's it called again? Imperialism and Capitalist Development in Marx's Capital.
Okay.
I'll go find it and put it in the chat.
So I really suggest you to
Have
go
fun.
read this article, but for now I would just give you, because it thanks EJ for bringing us a very important background story about the bourgeois proletariat that Marx and Engels were talking about, and how they literally destroyed the whole movement of the actual proletariat, not just imperial core, but in the colonies as well. And it is very interesting because, what do I say? The bourgeois proletariat, it still exists and it is getting stronger and stronger to this day too. You know why? Because I personally saw lots of problems within, leftists in the imperial core. Even though they are proletariat, but they are very racist against non-white people all around the world. Yeah, it is extremely problematic. And it was even from the Civil War of the USA in the 19th century, a lot of, especially empath socks, they took that as a bright example of the revolutionary history of the USA. And I find this laughable. You know why? It is because, yes, the colonials, the settlers at that time, they had a revolution. First, they had a revolution to gain independence from the English Empire. Yes, they did. But they did it just for white people only. They did it for settlers only. They didn't give a shit about indigenous people. And they even enslaved and brought millions of black people to their country so they can exploit. So that is the bourgeois proletariat. They are proletariat. Yes, they're poor. Yes, they're being oppressed by and exploited by the empire, the British Empire. Yes, but they also didn't give a shit about the life and death, about, the livings of indigenous people, of black people. And they did the revolution just for themselves. Okay? And about the Civil War of the North and the South of the USA, even you brave, those empath socks, they just love the founding fathers, literally slave owners, anyway. And also later, Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln, and from the start, didn't even want to free the slaves. At first, he didn't. It was not his original plan. He just went along the way when, the North went against the South. The South wanted to keep, the slaves so they can do their macho kind of plan. So that is what we should call the bourgeois proletariat. The proletariat in the imperial core. That on one hand, they also being exploited by rich capitalists, by the bourgeois state. But on the other hand, because their country, because of the racism, because of the sexism, they are always willing to do it. They always willing to do the revolution, quote unquote, on the price of non-white people, of indigenous people, of black people, of marginalized people, of disabled people, of queer people. Because the only thing they care about, that's what we call, a bunch of leftist imperial core today. It's like they are right-wingers, but they just want healthcare, and that's it. It's a concept that is still alive and well to this day, and we need to be aware of that. And that in the last panel I did with lots of comrades, cool comrades in many other countries too. This happened last week. We talk about, the chauvinistic left. And this is exactly what I want to address. The chauvinistic left, aka, can be called, can overlap with the bourgeois proletariat. And you need to fix this problem. And this is what actually the capitalists want. Look at this. You can check out this article. But long story short, Marx wrote extensively about, the relationship between Irish proletariat and English proletariat at that time. And it was why, why the proletariat, the Irish proletariat and the English proletariat, they hated each other. This is partially a product of capitalists in England at that time. They fed a little bit of privilege to the English proletariat, and they created the division between the Irish and the English. So they instead of uniting each other to overthrow the empire, they divided, and then they hated each other, and they claimed each other to be traitors. And that is great, because it is exactly what the capitalists in England at that time wanted. They want to divide and then conquer the working class. It's just so simple. And this tactic has been successful for centuries. And we, the proletariat, especially the proletariat in the imperial court, could not overthrow it, could not overcome this. And now in the modern day, with, individualism too, the God mind, fuck you mindset is also one of the biggest division, the strongest division of the working class in the USA. White working class, black working class, indigenous working class, brown working class, Asian working class, we all face the same, indoctrination and propaganda and racism and sexism. Queer working class too, we cannot unite with each other because of the chauvinism, because of the individualism. I desperately want to unite the working class. And here's the thing too. Lots of people, they share the same exact concern as me, that they want to unite the working class to fight against capitalism and imperialism and fascism too. So I understand that. But there are many people who chose the wrong way to do it. Just so freaking wrong, and I'm so frustrated. The people who, they think that they can unite the working class by ignoring all the secondary struggles that we're dealing with. We the non-white people, we non-white, queer women, every single day we have to deal with racism, sexism, homophobia, transphobia, all this bullshit like that. And we just want to change that reality. We want to show to Congress, especially people in imperial court, that, hey, we all human. Can you stop being racist and sexist and queerphobic? Please? Please stop being that shithead, and please listen to us, work with us so we can unite together and have a revolution to free ourselves. But no, there are so many people who okay, racism is just a distraction. Sexism is just a distraction. Queerphobia is just distraction. Just ignore all of that and unite with even chauvinistic leftists in the imperial court to overthrow. What are you talking about? We cannot. I'm sorry, but we cannot just put aside all of those struggles that we've been dealing with every single day to work with racist shitheads in the imperial court. I'm sorry. You're not gonna unite us by asking us to ignore the oppression, to ignore the struggles that we deal with every single day. I feel really sorry, really sad about those misled people. They're so close, yet they're so far. I'm sorry. And also those people who have that kind of belief, they call themselves leftist, communist, Marxist, socialist, anarchist. And they literally ask non-white people to ignore all of the racism, sexism, queerphobia, or bullshit like that. They are speaking from their own privilege. Because excuse me, you need to be fucking privileged. If you can tell us to forget the struggles that we've been living our whole life for centuries, for generations, because it is a thing that very painful and trauma to non-white proletariat. And you need to be fucking privileged if you even think about like you can forget it and unite with racist people. I'm sorry, I'm not gonna unite with leftists who mock my accent. I'm sorry, excuse me, no way. No fucking way. Or I'm not gonna fucking unite with quote-unquote leftists who literally sexual harassed me and call me sexual objects. No fucking way, dude. Are you fucking kidding me? You literally ask this queer woman, non-white communist in Vietnam to work, to shake hand, to brace with racist, sexist abuser who literally, publicly, sexually harassed me several times. Weird. Mocking my accent is actually a very mild thing that they did to me. I can't stand it. Now this led to the the chauvinistic left, the bourgeois proletariat. This led to the transition to the next topic today. It is the Second International. So, the bourgeois proletariat, the problem that Marx and Engels talk about in 19th century, yes, and they got very powerful, from Jones to Edward Bernstein. And actually, Marx and Engels did start the First International, and it was really cool. But the Second International, please allow me to dunk on Edward Bernstein and the Second International today. I am just so over with them. The Second International was taken over by the bourgeois proletariat, and they literally destroyed the whole movement. The only good thing that the Second International did was that it sucked so much that people had to vote for the Third International, which is the Comintern, which is the Communist International. All right? So, long story short, the Social Democratic parties at that time, one of the leader was Edward Bernstein. They just, literally, they only cared about the proletariat in the imperial court. They did not give a shit about colonies at that, even though at that time, the colonial question was very extremely important, because that was, one of the bright time of colonialism and, the birth of free trade imperialism, where literally the imperial court at that time, aka the England, they turned the rest of the world, their colonies, into the reserves of their raw material. For example, they conquer, countries like nations like India, China, Vietnam, and lots of other countries in Latin America, as like Brazil to Spain. They just treated us as the reserves for raw materials. They didn't even treat us as a human beings, the colony people, the people in the colonies. And at that time, the colonial question was very important to millions of people in the colonies all over the world. And we wanted to be independent. We want to have freedom from the imperial court. But the Second International didn't give a shit about us. Ho Chi Minh himself joined several meetings of the Second International, and at that time he was very confused. A short biography about Ho Chi Minh at the time. Ho Chi Minh went to France. No, not just France, but many other countries in the West from 1911, and he spent years over there studying. And at the time he heard about the Second International, and he kind of wanted to learn more about it. And he how do I say it? He wanted to give a chance to the Second International because they were talking about, the proletariat, how to end capitalism and colonialism and bunch like that too. But the thing that drove him off was that they didn't care at all for the colonial question, for colonies of the imperial core, because people like Edward Bernstein and the Social Democrat Party, they are bourgeois proletariat. They were bourgeois proletariat. They just care about only the working class in the imperial core. And they themselves, some of them even, I don't remember exactly who, but they even themselves even said that, oh, yes, a German saw them. Even said that it was totally, it was totally okay for Germany to colonize other countries. I'm not even lying to you. Just go read this article. There's the names on it. That sucked them. The Germans sucked them. Said that it was totally okay for Germany to go and colonize other poorer countries in the global south if it means that it will bring freedom and liberation for the proletariat in Germany. Can't believe it. So, Ho Chi Minh in Paris at that time, around 1920, he took part in a very important meeting. The meeting that I think that meeting kind of related to the Second International, and he voted to form the Third International, aka the Communist International, the Comintern. And this is a true story and very fun story. Ho Chi Minh and Rosa Luxemburg met each other in that meeting, and Rosa Luxemburg personally asked Ho Chi Minh why he voted for the formation of the Third International. And this is the answer of Ho Chi Minh at that time to that question, to that direct question of Rosa Luxemburg. He said, this is in the tours meeting in 1920. This is Ho Chi Minh answered. It is very simple. I actually did not understand all of your points when you talk about, the proletariat strategic tactic and many other points. So I didn't understand all of that. But there is one thing that I understand very clearly, that the Third International cares very much about the colonial question. The Third International said that they will help the peoples in the colonies to gain independence and freedom. Meanwhile, the Second International didn't even mention, not even once, about the fate of the colonies. That is why I voted for the Third International. Freedom for my people, independence for my nation. That is all that I want. That is all that I understand. That is literally the quote from Ho Chi Minh when he answered the question from Rosa Luxemburg. Now, I think we can move to the main point of the stream today, which is Ho Chi Minh Thought on colonial question. And by the way, if you have any questions about, the ideology questions or about Vietnam, history of Vietnam or Ho Chi Minh Thought or anything, feel free to just put it in the chat and I will try to answer them all. It is a great transition to the main topic today, which is Ho Chi Minh Thought. This is the textbook for Vietnamese students, for 18-year-old Vietnamese student about Ho Chi Minh Thought. And long story short, Ho Chi Minh Thought is a system of thoughts and ideas and ideologies of not just Ho Chi Minh, but of many other Vietnamese revolutionists. That it is later, Ho Chi Minh Thought was later compiled together by the Communist Party of Vietnam. And we study all the articles and all the speech or the books written by Ho Chi Minh and many other communists during the whole, procedure of Vietnam fighting for independence and freedom through France. Like we won against French colonialists and then fascist Japanese and then imperialist USA and then later the fascist Pol Pot too. And we came up with the Ho Chi Minh Thought. Ho Chi Minh Thought dedicated to not just Ho Chi Minh, remember that, but it is a product of many other Vietnamese Marxists too. And we just combine all the thoughts together, all the ideas together into a curriculum and call it the Ho Chi Minh Thought. Now, I did 2 streams earlier talking about the main principles, the basic points of Ho Chi Minh Thought, but I can give you a quick summary right now. Ho Chi Minh Thought we call it Ho Chi Minh Thought is a branch of Marxism and Leninism. It is an application of Marxism, Leninism into the very specific material conditions of Vietnam. This is it. And when you learn about Ho Chi Minh Thought, you need to keep that in your mind. This is a specific application of Marxism, Leninism into a very specific material conditions of Vietnam, just like Jucheism in North Korea and Mao Thought in China. Now, I'm not talking about Maoism because Maoism was came up with by some person, not Mao himself, and also it is not actually for the material conditions of China at that time. In fact, Mao Zedong, I believe that I read this a long time ago, an article about the Mao Thought, because like at that time, Chinese Marxist Leninists also wanted to do the same thing, with Mao ideology, like to have a version of Marxism, Leninism of China, okay? And Mao exclusively said that do not call that curriculum Maoism because he didn't believe that it should stand as an independent ideology. He insisted to call that Mao Thought or Mao Zedong Thought. And yeah, it is the same thing in Vietnam that we do not call it like Ho Chi Minh-ism or some bullshit like that. We just call it Ho Chi Minh Thought because it is just a branch of Marxism, Leninism into this very specific material conditions of Vietnam, just like Mao Thought into a very specific material conditions of China or Jucheism in North Korea. So yeah, that's it. That's the thing that we need to understand that. Yeah, mass line is one of very extremely important point in Mao Thought. And now about Ho Chi Minh Thought. What is the most important point of Ho Chi Minh Thought? It is colonial question. It is about the colonial question. It is literally the very first thing that Ho Chi Minh even mentioned about in his lifetime. Started about, he started like writing about this in 1920s. Ho Chi Minh, this is my conspiracy, but I think it's true, that Ho Chi Minh really hated the Second International. He hated it so much. And he despised it so much that literally the very first point that he wanted to, the first big point that he made was that he believed that peoples in the colonies can have independence and freedom before the imperial core. This is the opposite thing that the Second International, those sock dams at that time, those Edward Bernstein's follower, and also those bourgeois proletariat believe. Those people believe they only care about the imperial core, and they even think that the imperial core will, the proletariat in the imperial core will inherently gain independence and freedoms first. And then after that, they even have the right, they are very rightful to colonize other colonies, poor countries in the global south, to enrich the proletariat in their own country. Okay. To us, even though the people, they call themselves socialists, whatever, to us, they are nothing better. They are just not different at all from the from the colonialists that we've been dealing with for centuries. No different. Now they just frame themselves, the socialists, and they do the exact same thing, which is colonize the shit out of us, exploit the shit out of us to make wealth for them. Okay, socialists. The most important point, I'll say it again, the most important point of Chi Minh Thought is he believed that the colonized people in the colonies can very much possible to gain independence and freedom before the people in the imperial core, before the proletariat in the imperial core. And his entire analysis of the material conditions of Vietnam from then on, based on that fact, that we do not, because Ho Chi Minh himself, he was so fed up with those bourgeois proletariat that he didn't even give a shit anymore about them. Ho Chi Minh, for years, he's been trying so hard. From 1911 to 1920, he had been trying so hard to unite the working class. To unite the working class in the imperial core and the working class in the colonies. He wrote extensively about the misery of the working class in the imperial core. Just go check it out. He wrote extensively about how terrible, the people were treated, the proletariat were treated in the imperial core. And he did it to try to make the people in the imperial core proletariat, the working class, to also care for the colony people. Because, he believed that we only can unite if we try to listen to each other and try to open your heart, open your mind, and listen, and also to care for other people. And the only thing that can help you care about other people is to learn about their misery, to learn about their oppressions and exploitation. That is why Ho Chi Minh wrote a lot about the misery of the working class in the colonies, how we were treated as subhuman, how we were raped, how we were enslaved. At the same time, he wrote about how proletariat in the imperial core being exploited by the capitalists, why they were robbed from their hometown and they were brought to the colonies to whip us, colonies people. They tried to make to point that out so the two sides can understand each other, but he failed. He failed after years of trying, after years of running away from the police and the cops in the imperial core, after years of being refused by, the bourgeois newspapers, publishers, that it was so bad that he had to start his own newspaper with 3 other communist influence at that time. He tried so hard to put two sides together to make the two sides understand each other, but then he failed. And that was why he had to vote for the Third International, because that is the only place that cared about the colony people. And that is why he started his whole later revolution path based on his own belief that we, the colonies, we can win against the colonialism and gain our independence and freedom before those fuckheads in the imperial core. They are too deep into the indoctrination. And we have no better way than just fucking focus on our own problem and free ourselves first. Let those people deal with their own situation. Like, yeah, we cannot help. We try. We just cannot help. They just do not care about us. They're still fucking racist. And yes, the entire book is based on that single point. And yes, and later than that, he applied dialectical materialism, historical materialism into analyzing the situation of Vietnam at that time and how can Vietnam gain independence and freedom from colonialism, and how can we win against the imperial core. So here's the thing. It doesn't mean that we entirely gave up on internationalism. Absolutely not, because we know that it is a fact that we can only truly strive toward communism if capitalism is eliminated worldwide. That is a fucking fact. The only thing that we can do right now is to free ourselves first, because we are in danger and we have the potential of doing that. And while we do that, we hope that the proletariat in the imperial core will somehow find their own way to free themselves. And only after that, only when both the colonies and the imperial core can have a working class revolution, then we can truly work together, strive toward communism. I'm checking the chat right now to see if there's any questions on. I will, So that's why it's good to study the history of the revolutions, but don't apply any of one situation as blanket for others. Exactly. Woo-hoo! Bravo, you got it, comrade. Exactly that. It is very important to study history. Yes. History, and I mean the actual version of history, not the whitewashed version, okay? I'm not talking about, the fucking whitewashed version of a history that taught in imperial core, like in the USA, in Canada, in Australia, in the UK. It's disgusting. I'm talking about the actual history told by the proletariat, told by the working class, especially the working class from, outside of the imperial core. It is very important to know about the history, the actual history. And also at the same time, you also need to be aware of the fact that things change all the time. The only thing we can do is look at history, learn lessons, and then apply, analyze the situation now that you're dealing with, and then find your own solutions. History can only maybe give you some lessons and maybe guide you in the big picture, but to exactly how to deal with it, you have to work on it by yourself. That is why I've been telling you that dialectical materialism is very important. It is a tool, a lens that will help you collect information and then analyze the information. So then you can come up with a scientific answers, solutions, strategies for the material condition that you're dealing with. That is why I've been telling you, the proletariat in the imperial core, in the USA, for example, that I am not telling you exactly what to do because that is impossible. I can't. I am not a US citizen. I am not living in the US. I never even set a foot to the US. So what I can do is to offer you history, offer you knowledge. You learn from that, and then you apply that knowledge into the material conditions in your own society. And then from that, you work on plans for future. You work on strategies for the future. The point is to have revolution, to have a better future for the working class. So another thing about here's the thing. Another thing I want to talk about is this in this article. Marx and Engels and Rosa Luxemburg and Lenin too talk about, it reminds me of a lot about, the liberals or the leftists, quote unquote, who still believe in the work within the system. Marx and Engels did talk about that 200 fucking years ago. Let me see the part, but long story short, Marx said that if the proletariat limit themselves in that they just want to demand the better redistribution of the capital, they will fail. They will achieve nothing. And this is so true. This is so true. That I've been done telling you a lot that those who work within the system, liberals, and work in the system, leftists, AOC and Bernie Sanders, give me a fucking break. They still believe that you can just, just join the system and try to, reform it from the inside and try to sway it, try to, what do you call it? Try to vote. So to change the system, no. Marx fucking said it 150 years ago, 200 years ago. It's impossible. The working class will doom to fail if it limits itself to just demand for a better redistribution of wealth, of capital in the bourgeois society. Because the whole point is to have a revolution to overthrow that system, not to reform it, not to work within the system, because that's never gonna work. Just look at what happened to AOC and Bernie Sanders. What's going on with Bernie Sanders? He disappeared, right? Nobody even cared about him anymore. Just let that old man retire. Okay, whatever. Let's focus on AOC. She's a fucking grifter, man. I just can't stand it. She's just... Boy, oh boy. If you're from the US, I don't think that I need to talk much more anymore about AOC. Tax the rich. Yes, okay, fine, okay. Yeah, that's so that they went, just tax the rich and everything will be fine. The system will be fixed. Retire from revolution. The sock-damn reformers don't know that the ruling class will never give up power peacefully. Here's the thing, too. Here's the thing that me and EJ have been talking with each other a few days ago, too. I mean, about those sock-dams. I understand that those, opportunists like Edward Bernstein, because they are fucking opportunists. So all they care about is how they can get, how benefit they can get from being a fake leftist, because they can gain money and clout, kind of stuff like that, But I kind of feel sorry for people who literally, genuinely believe in sock-damn ideology. If it's even an ideology. I really feel sorry for those people who seriously believe that sock-damn is the way. They never even achieved anything. All they did was to sabotage the Second International. It was so bad, so useless, so terrible that people had to vote for the Third International, the exclusively communist one. With the massive loser, Edward Bernstein. Sad. What about damn suck? Dude, I'm sorry. But even now, I still trying to understand what's the difference between suck damn and damn suck. That's the only thing that I can answer. Oh, pretend sometimes people who pretend Scandinavia exists in a vacuum and forget the rest of the world exists. Yeah, socialism in the Scandinavian style, right? Yep. Yes, exactly. Rosa Luxemburg was the only one. I'm not even lying. Rosa Luxemburg was the only person that opposed the idea of, the anti-colonial question. Rosa Luxemburg was the only person, only comrade that wanted the second international to care about the colonial question. The rest of them just, as I said. So if you learn about history, about the Second International, even though they call themselves, of course, internationalists, actually they are the nationalists. They are the nationalist ones, because all they care about is for their own imperial core. That is a very nationalistic perspective. Meanwhile, we, proletariat, outside of the imperial core, the communists, the Marxist-Leninists, it is just so obvious that I can't believe that I have to talk about this too. Because I know that I saw a lot of people saying that, like, calling, like, we the nationalists, we are nationalists, like, choose. They call Ho Chi Minh a nationalist. Give me a fucking break. Okay. Ho Chi Minh. He was very much of an internationalist himself, because he believed this. The people in the colonies, we have to gain independence and freedom from colonialism. And we have to do it before the people in the imperial core. Because the point is that if they cannot do it first, we will do it first. The point is to weaken the imperial core, and then hopefully, the proletariat in the imperial core can then later overthrow their own government. We do whatever we can. We did it first. We did the revolution first. We fought the war first. We sacrificed millions of people so we can get independent first. So we can help you weaken the imperial core. Now, this is the thing. Ho Chi Minh himself a comparison that I really like from Ho Chi Minh in one of his articles. He called colonialism as like a leech with two hats. One hat, it sucks from proletariat in the imperial core. It sucks the wealth from the imperial core. The second hat, it sucks from the material, the raw material from the colonies. It sucks from both sides. And we, the proletariat of the global, the entire planet, if we really want to end this existence of this leech, we have to cut both of the heads of that leech at the same time. And he tried to do that, as I said before, by uniting the proletariat in the imperial court and in the colonies, but then he failed. And then he realized that it is more possible. The colonies have the higher chance of winning against colonialism before the imperial court, the proletariat imperial court. So that is why he had his own, analysis after that. And he led the Vietnam to the revolution and then win against the colonialist France and then imperialist USA. Because we understand that the proletariat in the imperial court just cannot chop the head of that leech at the same time with us. So, okay, we do it. We try to weaken the leech first, because, of course, if we cut one head of it, the leech will be weakened and it will need a longer time to grow again. And in that weak kind of phase of it, hopefully they can end the existence of it. And also at the same time, here's the thing too. This is a thing that Ho Chi Minh also believed, that when the imperial court are unable to exploit and enslave people from colonies anymore, they have only one choice. It is to exploit their own proletariat. It is a little bit doomerist kind of perspective, but it kind of makes sense at that time, especially in the early 19th centuries when we were so miserable. We were literally enslaved by French colonialists for hundreds of years. We're dying of starvation. He said that he was so desperate and so frustrated at those bourgeois proletariat. They said like, yes, when the imperial court, their own bourgeois state, cannot exploit us anymore, they will exploit their own people. And by then, only then, the proletariat in the imperial court will be miserable enough to stand up and fight for themselves to overthrow their own government. But sadly, hundreds of years later, since 1920, when Ho Chi Minh voted and joined the Third International, now today is 2020. Vietnam is still on the way of building socialism, and the imperial court still struggling to even fight against the capitalist hegemony in their own imperial court. 100 fucking years already, and we even move backward. We literally even move backwards. I'm sorry. But that is my observation in the imperial court. The imperial court at that time was the UK, and now the imperial court is now more like the USA. Now, class consciousness virtually doesn't even exist anymore in the imperial court due to 1984. Very sad. I don't blame you 100%. I don't. I blame you like 50%. I'm sorry, 50%. The other 50% I blame on the bourgeois state. The bourgeois state that literally use their power, uses their money, use their weapons to eliminate the whole movement of the working class over there. Just look at how. This is what EJ taught me. Actually, thanks EJ for teaching me this. The working class in America, in the USA in 1920s and 1930s, they were very powerful, extremely powerful. The union movement, the workers' union movement was so powerful that they almost did it. They almost successfully had a revolution. But they got gutted by union boosters. They got gutted by those bourgeois proletariat who sold themselves to the bourgeoisie. The people who literally joined the unions and then sabotage it. and then send the information of the leaders of those organizations to the FBI, to the CIA, so they can assassinate and murder all of them. It's heartbroken. And in the 1980s, they used massive campaign to spread anti-communist propaganda all over the country, and they just murder, arrest, assassinated every single one that started to have some power in the working class movement. Fred Hampton, Martin Luther King, and many other people too. The IWW, they were so powerful before. They were so strong before. They were virtually, I think, the only big organizations that try to gain the unity between black workers and white workers at that time. And they were gutted so terribly that the last about 50 members of the IWW had to hide away, literally hide away, disappear, stop all the actions, stop all the activities, because they were hunted by the FBI, by the police, and by the CIA. It was so fucking sad. The other 50% that I blame on you is that this. You themselves are so fucking racist. I'm sorry, the bourgeois, proletariat. Just look back at the history of the USA. In 1920s, 1930s, and 1940s. Yes, the workers' movement was very strong and powerful at that time. But you know what? There were so unions, the workers in that time, that just exclusively for white people. When black people wanted to join the unions, they just straight up dismiss them and kick them out of the room. They only care for fucking rights for the white working fucking class. You're fucking racist assholes. Black people desperately wanted to join the working class movement, the unions movement, so they can overthrow and have a better working conditions of the fight against the capitalist class. But nope, white worker, white bourgeois proletariat just kick them out of the room and not allow them to form any organization of themselves, and not just refuse to unite with them. That was why when white workers striked to ask for better working conditions, those capitalists immediately hired black workers to go work for them. What? They refused black workers to join with the organization, with the unions. And they were so racist, they were being oppressed that they could not even form their own unions. So what? When white people strike, and those capitalists are like, okay, if those people refuse to work, now we will pay you to work the same job. Will you agree? Of course, black people will agree to work the job. And then those white workers, they were pissed. Oh, they claim black people to be the traitor of the working class, because when white people was striking to have to ask for a higher salary, less working hours, and better working conditions, black people took the job without any conditions. They called black people to be traitor, and they even hated black working class even more. God damn it! You fucking dare to blame black workers to take their job, why you literally refuse to unite with them in the movement. They exclude them out of your movement, and now when they take the job, you blame them. Eesh. Boy, oh boy. Oh, the immigrants. Let's talk about immigrants too. This is a very related topic too, because this also is discussed about in this awesome article. Okay. Marx said that capitalists in the imperial class, again, he wrote this in the 19th century, okay? Marx said that in the dawn of free trade imperialism, how do I frame this so you can understand it easily? In the dawn of free trade imperialism, capitalists from imperial core exported the exploitation to outside of their countries, okay, to the colonies. And of course, they also brought immigrants to their own home country for a cheaper wage, lower wage. And Marx himself called it, exactly where is this? Marx himself called it like the modern slavery. Marx himself called, the immigrants the modern slavery. This is exactly it. Now, back to the situation in the USA right now, where immigrants are being locked in cages in ICE camps. That people seems to forget about that after Biden won the elections. Weirdly, they forgot about that. I don't see enough people talk about this anymore. It's just like crunch time after Biden won. Now everybody talks about midterms, and they're also getting ready for the next election, presidential election, with Ron DeSantis versus Trump. Oh gosh, there's no fucking future, man. Yes, immigrants still being locked in cages in the USA. The pandemic is still going on, and the monkeypox is killing people too. Yay, great. Slavery, man. This is what Marx said. I will rephrase this, but he said like when, the workers, the proletariat in the imperial core, because they also leave, their own country accumulated lots of wealth from the rest of the world, and they turn that wealth into railway stations in the imperial core, and then like huge massive buildings too. Yep, and healthcare too. That he extensively talked about railway system. Okay, they extract those wealth from the outside, and then they build that in the imperial core. It means that the proletariat in the imperial core also benefit from that. They benefit from the wealth that got extracted from the colonies. They benefited from that, and because they to create, the division between the working class, so they also got paid a little bit higher than people outside of the imperial core. And this is still true even to this day. Now, just look at it. White, straight, cishet male in the United States got paid higher than non-white, non-male, non-cis people. They gave those people a little bit of profit, a little bit of privilege, a crumbles of the bread. So what? So they can dunk on and shit on those non-white proletariat. So they can sign with the capitalists. Oh, so you mean like, so my salary is higher than them. So if I, organize with them and overthrow this company, I would be paid like as low as them. So now I'm going to sign with the company because I receive a higher salary than them, better conditions than them. So I'm sorry. It's fucking same thing with I've been talking about this a lot too. The salary system in Vietnam right now, especially in English centers, English teaching centers, if you're white, if you're native speakers, your salary is gonna be the highest. If you're white, but you're not if you look white, okay, that. If you look white and you're not native speaker, your salary is a little bit lower than that, but still very high compared to other people. Now, if you're non-white, but you're native speaker, for example, like, Viet diasporas or many like, Philippine diaspora came to Vietnam, become English teacher. They speak English perfectly. Physically born in the year 6 because they do not look white. So their salary is lower than the people who look white, even though their English skill is so much better than those non-native speaker. I gotta say yes. People who got paid the least is Vietnamese English teachers. We don't look white, and then we're not native speaker, even though our grammar is so much better and we understand our mother tongue speaking to the children, but we got paid the lowest. Now just tell me, this is not just some racism bullshit. This is literally things still going on in Vietnam to this day. Yes, they gave those white-looking people a little bit more privilege over us, non-white people. So you would more likely sign with the capitalist class because you receive privilege than us. When we, the people who receive the lowest wage, we want to like, hey, this is bad, this is not good. You should join us, to have a strike to ask for higher salary or at least equal salary as other people. But nope, they're not going to do it because they're afraid that if they join us and strike with us, the company will lower their salary. Asa. Most of Americans never even heard of Colonial, bro. Sad for you. Oh my gosh. I just want to hit myself in the wall. I don't blame you. This is just a question, but like, seriously. It's a side Polcom ball, political compass ball. Chi Minh Thought is described as a Vietnamese kleptocratic Dungism. At least after Doi Moi, what's the response to this? Was Doi Moi really corrupt? God damn it. Can those people who absolutely have no fucking clue about neither Ho Chi Minh Thought or Doi Moi reform just shut the fuck up forever? Seriously, can they please learn how to listen before they talk? Or learn how to do proper research before they open their fucking mouths or open even a political compass, that poll about this shit. No, I'm not blaming you, John. I blame the ding-dongs out there who even make this claim. I don't blame you. The thing is that... How do I start? Where do I start? First, you need to be aware of this. Vietnam. I mean, actually, yes, it's not rude. This is my frustration at those ding-dongs who even did this poll in straight face. Okay? Jesus fucking Christ. Can I just show my frustration without being judged? Đổi mới was the name of the political change that we did in the 1986 all the way to 1990s. And now I'm going to give you a very brief summary of this time and why we did it. Now, Vietnam, we won against the imperialist USA in 1975. We were bombed back to the Stone Age by the USA, quote unquote. This is literally a quote from the USA that they wanted to bomb Vietnam back to the Stone Age. We were devastated. Nothing fucking left. It was so bad that, you know, there's in 1972, there's an area in the south of Vietnam near parallel 17th. The parallel that was used by the Geneva Agreement to separate Vietnam into north and south. Around that area, there was an area called Thành Cổ Quảng Trị. The it's a Quảng Trị. It was a square. It was like a 3 kilometers square, 3 square kilometers wide. Only 3 square kilometers. But in 6 months, that square was bombed continuously, day and night, by the USA. The amount of bombs used in that single square of Vietnam was equal to 7 nuclear bombs. The bomb that was dropped in Hiroshima, Japan in World War II. In that single square, 3 square kilometers alone, 7 nuclear bombs were dropped. To tell you, that is to tell you, the single, example is to tell you how devastated the countries of Vietnam was. And in the 25 years of the Vietnam War, there were way more bombs that equals to, I don't even know how many dozens of nuclear bombs got dropped in Vietnam. You guys still talk about how bad it was for Japan to receive 2 nuclear bombs. And it was terrible. It was fucking war crimes. But take that same scale and times dozens for Vietnam during the Vietnam War. 20 fucking years of wars and bombs and chemical weapons, Agent Orange, napalm on this country. 2 million civilians of Vietnamese died. Just civilians, and over 1 million military personnel died. The total is more than 3 million Vietnamese died in this war. That's what we know of. Okay? And until now, there are still hundreds of barrels of toxins buried under the soil of Vietnam. Still vast land of Vietnam that's still so much contaminated that we cannot grow anything on it. Nobody can live on it yet. We have to wait for at least the next 50 years, another 50 years for it to maybe be livable. And nearly every single month in Vietnam, we still find an unexploded bomb dropped by the USA somewhere under the ground of Vietnam. That was to tell you how desperate, how devastated, how poor we were right after we got out of the war with the USA in 1975. Right after that, we went to the fight with Pol Pot, Khmer Rouge. Khmer Rouge at that time, with the help from both the CIA from the USA and the USA state, the UK too, under Margaret Thatcher, I think, and also the help from Deng Xiaoping, China. Don't fucking forget that. We never forget. Deng Xiaoping, China under Deng Xiaoping, the US under Nixon, and the UK under Margaret Thatcher, if I'm not wrong. They all supported Khmer Rouge. And Khmer Rouge consider Vietnam to be the biggest threat to the great kingdom of Cambodia people. They attacked Vietnam constantly from 1974, even 1 year we won against the USA. They attacked continuously Vietnam from 1974 to 1979. We tried so hard for years to work with them, using, foreign affairs, using talk only. But they just didn't listen. And the final straw that broke the camel's back was the massacre, the Ba Chúc massacre, happened in An Giang province in the south of Vietnam, the province right next to the Cambodia. In just a few days, they slaughtered 3,200 innocent civilians. Most of them were women and children. They literally slaughter them, not just use like guns. I don't want to violate any terms of it, so that's what I'm going to tell you. Just go Google it. Ba Chúc massacre, B-A-C-H-U-C. Massacre, you will see. We still have museums to this day. That was when, nope, we cannot let this happen again. So Vietnam decided to call for volunteer soldiers to go to Cambodia to end the existence of the genocidal Khmer Rouge regime. Deng Xiaoping at that time, because they wanted to support Khmer Rouge, so they sent weapons to Khmer Rouge, yes, Pol Pot. And at the same time, right in 1979, when we were about to send soldiers to the south of Vietnam to enter Cambodia to end that genocidal regime, China under Deng Xiaoping, with the decision of Deng Xiaoping, had an order to attack the north border of Vietnam. So, if you look at the map of Vietnam, the north, we have a border with China, and the south have a border with Cambodia. So they wanted to, first thing, there are several reasons why they did this, but the first thing is this: they wanted to weaken the military power of Vietnam, because we were about to send soldiers to the south. They immediately attacked the north. So we had to separate our military power and send have it to the north to defend ourselves, right? To weaken us, to help Khmer Rouge, Pol Pot. The second time is that, because of the Sino-Soviet split that happens in the 1960s all the way to 1970s and 80s too. Vietnam, sadly, we chose Soviet. We kind of had a closer relationship with Soviet, and that pissed Deng Xiaoping off a lot. So they want to attack Vietnam. It is also a kind of a warning to both Soviet and Vietnam to tell us, okay, you say that you're a good friend with each other, right? Well, let's see what would the Soviet do if we attack Vietnam. It is kind of, they want to to slap Vietnam to the face that we dare to sign with the USSR over China under Deng Xiaoping. So yes, so we decided. When after 2 months, I think, China attacked the border of Vietnam, and tens of thousands of Vietnamese soldiers died defending the north border of Vietnam. So Soviets didn't send any help. So it is a thing that the big lesson that China even said, Deng Xiaoping, he said he wanted to teach Vietnam a lesson by doing that. So Vietnam still sent, after 2 months of fighting against the border, China withdrew, and we still continue our, a mission in Cambodia to end the existence of Cambodia. The whole world, maybe except Laos and Cuba, and some very rare other examples. The USA and its vassal states took that as an excuse to comprehensively sanction Vietnam. Right in from 1975, Vietnam were actually never out of sanction before, because of course they sanctioned the whole north of Vietnam during the whole Vietnam War, and after that they didn't even talk about that. But when we literally send troops to Cambodia to end the existence of the Khmer Rouge regime, they use that as an excuse to sanction Vietnam even more comprehensively, and they force other countries to not trade with Vietnam at that time too. Vietnam was already devastated, bombed to the Stone Age by the USA, and now we are under comprehensive sanction. We just got the fucking fight a war with the border war with the China, and now we're sending troops to Cambodia. Yes, and on top of it, the comprehensive sanction. Awesome. My mom lived through that time, so she knows exactly how miserable it was. At that time, Vietnam tried from 1975 to 1985. We tried for 10 years to build a moneyless communist country, society. Vietnam, my mom lived through this time. If you want to go watch the interview I did with my mom. We didn't, we virtually use stamp system. We follow the subsidizing model of the USSR in the 50s and tried to do that. We tried to do that for 10 years, but we failed. We fucking failed, man. 10 fucking years and we failed. We failed mainly due to the harsh material conditions at that time. We could not even feed our own people. We could not even secure the basic needs of our people. We did not have medicines. We didn't have seeds. We didn't have fertilizers. We didn't have nothing. And now we had to fight a war in Cambodia too, because they keep slaughtering our own people. And then China for attack us under Deng Xiaoping's disease and attack us to protect, to have a Pol Pot. So, what do you want to do? At that time, we wanted to borrow money from IMF and World Bank. But they did not, because we are still under comprehensive sanction and we chose to have a communist society. So, no, against their guidelines, so they did not. So, it was a tough decision, but in 1986, the leaders of Vietnam had to make a very tough decision that we have to open our economy so we can borrow, not take the free money. Borrow means that we have to pay them back later, okay? We had to open our economy so we can borrow money from IMF and World Bank, so we can feed so millions of us will not die of starvation and preventable disease. So you can imagine this. It's like a situation when capitalists literally put the gun in your head. Say that you have to open your economy. You have to allow your country to be exploited by capitalism, or else we will let you starve to death. That is đổi mới reform we're talking about. Đổi mới was a situation that Vietnam had to do it, or else millions of us, or else my mother would die of starvation and preventable disease. So it is very insulting to you. Insulting to us if you believe that đổi mới is just a dungish thing. Yes?
Sorry, I'm just going to grab something.
Okay. So it is very insulting to us that you literally believe that đổi mới reform is a dungish thing. Because we fucking hate Deng Xiaoping, god damn it. And you act like Dengism is even a thing. That it exists. But anyway. And it is very ignorance of those people. Very ignorant of them. To even consider that like Vietnam like somehow did the đổi mới reform somehow happily. And somehow we like total traitor of communism. They literally speaks from their own ignorant ass. They know nothing about the history of Vietnam, about how we were treated by the rest of the world, what kind of material conditions we will face, and how we tried so hard for 10 years. It doesn't mean that we didn't try. We did it. We tried for 10 straight years of having a moneyless society. But the whole fucking world just fucking put a gun in our head. Starve us. So, exactly. people believe that they invented market socialism, which is ridiculous. It's fucking ridiculous. They don't think that market exists under socialism. If you don't think the market, if you believe that market doesn't exist in socialism, what kind of socialist are you? You don't understand anything about ideology at all, about, the essential belief of Marx and Engels and Lenin themselves about what it means to be socialism. What? Socialism? Oh, gosh, yes, I know it. Because tons of people, use the word socialism and communism interchangeably. Market exists before capitalism and will exist after capitalism, believe it or not. We've been trading with each other since the dawn of time. And market just means that it is the place where people trade their stuffs, their commodities. That's it. Okay? And socialism is a transitional period from capitalism into communism. And under socialism, a society that wants to strive towards socialism, they need to have a strong economy. Socialism to us, to Vietnamese, means having a strong economy. So that economy can secure the basic needs of its own people, to secure the social being of the society. And only a society can truly move towards socialism if they have a strong economy. That is why, dude, we even study about political. Huh? Okay, EJ want to say something, okay? They just gave me some note that I was exactly what I'm about to talk about later. Now let's get to this first, okay? Marx and Engels and Lenin themselves wrote a lot about political economy. Political economy means that they believe in the economy and socialism, right? Yes. And wow, how a society can only secure the basic needs for its own people if it has a strong economy. If Vietnam did not have a strong economy from 1975 to 1985, that is why we could not secure the basic needs of our own people. That was why we failed. Don't even dream about building socialism in the extreme poverty without any raw materials. No way. We did it, we failed. If we can do it, holy shit, we would be like, admire you so much. Now talk about the reforms and now the model of the economic models of Vietnam today. Logical act that đổi mới is like, like a capitalist, reform, and Vietnam is totally capitalist. We are trader of capitalists. We call it like Vietnam is a market economy right now. They don't even know exactly what we call the economy of Vietnam. We call it socialist-oriented market economy. It's fucking much different from the free market of capitalist system. So here's the thing. I think that this is the thinking map of those people when like Vietnam say, okay, our economy is called socialist-oriented market economy. Those people, they heard like, okay, market economy, just forget about the socialist-oriented part. Put aside. It's like so you call this a market economy. So it means that you have markets. So it means that you are free markets. So it means that you're capitalist. It means that you're trader of capitalism. You're trader of communism. You're capitalist now. I can't. I just can't. The system of Vietnam right now is, again, we call it socialist-oriented market economy. And if you watch my video where I translated the meeting of the National Assembly of Vietnam where we discussed the gas, oil, the oil price of Vietnam, there's a section that literally the minister of Industry and Trade in Vietnam explained about the economic system of Vietnam. He said, I will rephrase him what he said. He said like, even though we have a market, we are a market economy, but because we are socialist oriented, means that our government has the responsibility to regulate the market to benefit our own people. That is it. That is the core, what do you call it, meaning of what we call the socialist-oriented market economy. Yes, we have a market because we need a market so we can import and export stuff from other countries with other countries so we can have enough capital so we can have a strong economy, so we can secure the basic needs of our own people. Because believe it or not, we do not exist in a vacuum. We have things that other countries need, and we also, other countries have the things that we need. That is why we need to trade with each other. And we've been doing this for thousands of fucking years, even before capitalism exists. They act like market is exclusively a product of capitalism. It's so ding dong. You just gave me some plan for today. But anyway, back to the main topic. Now, yes, we have a market, and the point is that like the government, will have a regulation to we call it like to what you call it, to điều tiết là cái gì nhỉ? To adjust, yes, to adjust, for example, the price of very important products to secure the basic needs of Vietnamese. So, for example, we have price stabilization for rice, and we make sure that rice always affordable to even poor Vietnamese people, so we will never be hungry. We have a price stabilization for pork price. When it's too expensive, we lower it down. We lower it down to make sure that we can buy it. Or we have also gas, like a price stabilization too. Now, here's the thing. I admit that we have a capitalist in Vietnam. We do. We do have a billionaires in Vietnam. It is a very much thing that we are aware of. And even the first secretary of the Communist Party of Vietnam wrote an article talking about this. That we, yes, the Communist Party of Vietnam realize that we do have a billionaires capitalist in Vietnam. It is a contradiction that we are having right now. The point is that in the future, we can eliminate this contradiction, aka the capitalist, aka the billionaire. So still now, we're still in the transitional period of moving society from capitalism to socialism. And in that period, Vietnam is one of the very rare countries in the world, very, very few countries in the world that is doing this. So, of course, we make mistakes. And we are just one of the first to walk on this path. So we still learn lessons on the way we go. And we still have so many contradictions that we need to address. We still have extreme poverty in Vietnam. We still do not have a universal health care yet. And we still have a corrupted members, corruptions. We still have a bureaucracy. We still have billionaires. Yes, that is it. We don't. I don't deny that. We don't deny that. We know. We know that our society is not perfect, and there's still a freaking long way for us to go. The whole point is that like we still keep our main goal is to strive towards socialism, and we keep the main goal up. At first, the priority right now is to build a strong and stable economy to maintain, to secure the basic needs of our own people. That is why I can tell you some project that we are doing right now that the extreme poverty rate in Vietnam is around 2.75% last time I checked. And we plan that by 2025 we will eliminate extreme poverty. And even though we don't have a universal health care or free health care yet, but right now we are having a very something kind of very close to that. Means that, for example, when you have a job, you have a salary, you will pay what do I call it? The companies will pay I don't know exactly, I don't remember exactly the number, but you have to pay about 10% of your salary, around 10% of the salary for social insurance, unemployment insurance, and healthcare insurance and health insurance. The company will pay 20%. The total is 30%. And after that, you have a health insurance, social insurance, and if you quit your job, you have a unemployment insurance too.
I thought it was like 2% or 1% you pay. I think you're pretty off.
Because they all three kind of I was wrong.
At those numbers.
I was wrong.
The government pays like 90%.
Yeah, the government pays by like 90%.
And then the company pays like 6 or 7 or 8%, and then you pay like
3%. Yeah, you're right. I was wrong. Thank you so much. We pay about 3% of our salary. The company pay about 6 to 7%, and the rest of it, 90% paid by the government. So, yeah. And even if you do not have a job, you do not have a salary, you still can have insurance in Vietnam. We call it national insurance, and I am having it. All my family members have it. It costs $35 a year. $35 a year for the insurance, national insurance, and it can pay up to 80-90% off the medical fee. Okay. One of my family member is literally using that right now. We also have we call it life insurance or personal insurance. If you have some more income and you buy it from life insurance company, fine. But yes, the basic is that we have a national insurance, and if you're poor, you have a free national insurance. You don't even have to pay that $35 a year at all. Near poverty line is about 50 to 70% off. And if you're workers, yes, the company and the government paid it for you too. And if like me, a freelancer, want to buy national insurance, it's just fucking $35 a year. Yes, I can afford that. It's very affordable to Vietnamese people, the normal working class. So, yep. Yeah, same. My healthcare insurance a year is about 30 USD, and they will pay 80% treatment if I go to hospital. Yes, same. We have the same insurance. It's about from $30 to $35. Well, yep. Yeah, socialism is a plan to reach communism. It is a state of change on the path to communism. Yes, it is not a static kind of regime. It is not a static system. To us, we believe that it is, transitional period. If your society somehow decide to sway away from capitalism and want to move toward communism, so socialism is a very necessary step to do that. So that, yes, there's still money under socialism, sadly. There's still contradiction. There's still capitalist contradictions under socialism, yes. And we have to work on it to try to resolve those contradictions so we can move society slowly to communism, to have enough material conditions so we can truly strive toward communism. Okay. Oh, we have a donation 30 minutes ago. Thank you so much. Đồng Chí Minh. I love your name, Đồng Chí Minh. This is a Minh the comrade. Or you can say Chí Minh with a different family name, but yes, Minh the comrade. Hi, hi, Vietnamese diaspora trapped in the US here. Hi. Just wanted to tell all these other Americans to shut the fuck up about the đổi mới reforms. If the US left had done anything to halt the sanctions after the war, it would never have been necessary. Exactly, totally with you. Thank you so much for donation. I'm so sorry that I only see it now. But yes, can you please shut the fuck up about đổi mới reforms? And instead, seriously, here's the thing too I've been talking about a lot too. The best thing we can do right now is the proletariats, focus on our own problems. Try to build a movement in our own countries and leave each other alone. We leave you alone, and you leave us alone. Good luck. Best wishes for you. That's what we want. Also, Jonathan, thank you so much for your donation. Do you think the Viet Cong should still exist as some kind of elite force? Also, if for some reason China decides to wage war on Vietnam, do you think it would be a repetition of the first one, or Vietnam would lose this time? Ooh, I will answer this real quick. I answer this real quick that the Viet Cong is literally still exists in Vietnam to this day. We just don't call us Viet Cong. We call it the People's Army of Vietnam. We call it the militias in Vietnam right now. And I am making a video about militias in Vietnam, where literally millions of our people, students and normal citizens, if they volunteer, they all be well trained in guerrilla tactics, weapons using CKC, AK-47, green necks, landmines, stuff like that. Yes, and we have armories in nearly every single neighborhood of Vietnam. So Viet Cong still exists. We just don't call it Viet Cong. We call it like militia, dân quân tự vệ, and also the People's Army of Vietnam too. Yep. And about the China thing, the Taiwan thing right now. Nancy Pelosi is in Taiwan right now, and we Vietnamese communists, we are looking at the situation very cautiously. Very concerned, and this is the exact thing that we already talked about months ago when the thing happened between Ukraine and Russia. We already talked about yes, this sucks, and Taiwan will relate to this too. We'll be related to this too. And we were so fucking right. Now it's Taiwan. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't want war because we are located right so close to China, to Taiwan too. We don't want any war. We don't want to provoke anybody. So we are watching this situation very carefully, and we do not have any conclusion yet. So, and I am not sure about if something bad happened about Vietnam and China. Here's the thing. We don't want war. We never want war. We never advocate for war. But remember this. If somebody wages any war on us, Vietnamese people are not afraid of fighting back. I don't know about the outcome. All the things that we know about, to make sure about, can be sure about, is that we will fight until the last breath. We don't know exactly the outcome. Nobody knows. We just know that we will fight back. That we will never provoke any war. We never advocate for any war. No, we just want peace. And Vietnam is trying so hard using the diplomatic, diplomatic means, to have a good relationship with all other countries in the world. And at the same time, we also hope for the best, but prepare for the worst. Yes, that's what I can. Exactly. We don't want war. I don't want war. Everyone here love peace. Exactly. What do we think about the DPRK? We of course we are comrades. We also understand that we are human beings, so of course we have a disagreement and we also have agreement. But long story short, Vietnam is still trying to have a good relationship with North Korea, and we will help them no matter how we can. Like we just send like tons of rice to North Korea during, I think the pandemic last year, something like that. I mean, good relationship. We still hope for the best for them. We still want the U.S. to lift the sanction on North Korea, just the same as we always want the USA to get the fuck out of Cuba and stop the sanctions. Close Guantanamo prison, please. Get the fuck out of it. You have none of your business over there, okay? And yes, I want to mention a little bit about the inflation rate in Vietnam too. In not just Vietnam, but in the USA too. I mean, it's pretty bad. If the inflation rate in the USA last time I checked was about 20%, right? It's woo. Inflation rate in Vietnam last time I checked was about 7%, 7.5%. I could be wrong, but it's already high to Vietnamese because usually the inflation rate in Vietnam is 4%. Now it's 7%. But boy, oh boy, don't even compare that to the USA or Pakistan. The inflation rate in Pakistan right now, you know what? 37%. 37. Oh, Raiders, right? Welcome, Raiders. Hi, everybody. I'm Luna, living in Vietnam. Welcome, Vietnamese communists. Today we talk about, I will give you a brief summary of the topic of the session today. We talk about how Marx and Engels talk about colonial questions 200 years ago in a lot of their writings, and they mostly talk about India, China, and Irish independence movement too. And also they saw the problem of the proletariat in the imperial core being sexist and racist and chauvinistic, that literally Marx and Engels call those shitty proletariat the bourgeois proletariat. And I like this term a lot. The bourgeois proletariat, they are not petty bourgeoisie. They are not. Petty bourgeoisie is totally different class, that they have a very specific class characteristics. We are talking about the bourgeois proletariat, the literal working class of the bourgeoisie, but they benefit from the bourgeois state. So they have the characteristics of the bourgeoisie. They, for example, racism, sexism, and also, they also, for example, there was a German Sochdam who literally said that if, the proletariat, the German proletariat had a revolution and took power of the country, free themselves, it is totally okay, rightful for them to colonize other countries in the global south if it means that it can bring wealth to the proletariat in the imperial core in Germany. That was what they call the bourgeois proletariat. The nationalist proletariat who only care for the imperial core, who do not give a shit about colonial people, do not give a shit about the colonies, and show no solidarity to the working class outside the imperial core. I mean, this sounds so much like the empath suck. But anyway, Yeah, that's it. Next we talk about. From that, we talk a little bit about the Second International and why Ho Chi Minh voted for the Third International. And the reason why Ho Chi Minh answered Rosa Luxemburg about why he voted for the Third International, because the Third International was the only organization that cared for the colonies and only organization that offered help to the colonies to gain independence and freedom from colonialism, from the imperial core. And from that, I talk about Ho Chi Minh Thought. One of the main points of Ho Chi Minh Thought is that he believed that peoples in the colonies can gain independence and freedoms again, and independence and freedom against the imperial core before the proletariat in the imperial core. So this is the main from that main point. He started working on, analysis study about the material condition in Vietnam, and had the successful revolution, and then won against French colonialism and then U.S. imperialism. So that's it. EJ, can you come here? Are you watching? We kind of a little bit over time, and I think that. Ooh, thank you so much. Anonymous donation is $4.20. That is adapt. I have to ask EJ. Give me a second. Anh ơi. Come here, I need your help. I need your help. Come here.
What?
Before I end the stream, people want us to sing the Ballad of Ho Chi Minh.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
I did it terribly last time.
Okay, my hands are filthy, so I can't play the guitar or anything, so.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Sad.
I recommend you, I've been working on that motorbike.
Oh.
But I can sing, like, harmony, I guess.
I'm not good at singing this song at all.
Well, there's like a million verses too, so I think we should just do the first and the last. Yeah. Okay. All right. We'll just do this and then the last.
Okay.
Wait, where's the last? I don't understand how this is.
That's a Vietnamese.
I'm so confused.
See the cycle down there?
Well, can you just find the Vietnamese, the English lyrics? Because this is really confusing. I don't understand.
Choose the first one then.
Here. Okay, we'll just read that one, and then we'll jump down to the.
Wow.
See, I told you it's a freaking long song. It's like his whole life or something. All right, so we'll jump down to verse 9 after. Okay, all right, here we go. 1, 2, 3. Far away across the ocean, far beyond the sea's eastern rim, lives a man who is father of the Indo-Chinese people, and his name is Ho Chi.
Ho 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 Chi Minh, ho 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 Chi Minh.
From Viet Bắc to the Saigon Delta, march the armies of Viet Minh, and the wind stirs the banners of the Indo-Chinese people, peace and freedom and Ho Chi Minh.
Ho 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 Chi Minh, ho 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 Chi Minh.
Let's do the last verse again, but I want you to go high.
Okay.
Okay. From Viet Bắc. Sing with me.
Okay.
From
Viet Bắc to the Saigon.
From Viet Bắc to the Saigon Delta, march the armies of Viet Minh, and the wind stirs the banners of the Indo-Chinese people, peace and freedom and Ho Chi.
Ho ho.
Go high. I want you to go high.
It's hard. I couldn't do harmony like that.
It's not harmony. You can even keep the same melody.
Ho
Ho ho Ho Chi Minh. Okay, then you go low and I'll go high.
Okay.
From Viet Bắc to the Saigon Delta, march the armies of Viet Minh, and the wind stirs the banners of. See, now you go high when I go high. You fail.
Failed miserably.
I'm gonna give you one more opportunity. Do you want to go high or low?
I'm gonna go high. You go low.
We go low. You go high. Okay.
Okay.
You start.
Okay. From Vietnam to the Saigon Delta,
March the armies of Viet Minh, and the wind stirs the banners of the Indo-Chinese people, peace and freedom, and Ho Chi
Ho, ho,
Minh.
Ho Chi Minh, ho, ho, Ho Chi Minh.
That's all I wanted. That's all I wanted.
That's it.
That's all I wanted.
So, comrades, we did terribly, but we tried. I hope that you appreciate our, the effort, not the outcome. Because the effort is more important than the outcome, I believe. I'm so ashamed of myself right now. Thank you so much, everybody. See you next time. And bye, everybody.